Yeah, hello, hi, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are.
Hello, good afternoon.
So, okay, yes. So, hope everyone is good. So, this is Dr. Prem. So, I'm a physiotherapist working at Continental. Um, so, today we'll be going through some ergonomics session. Uh, so, hope everyone are working from home, right? So, is there someone who can talk on behalf of the others? Okay. Donald. Okay. Okay, fine. Hello. Hello, can you hear?
Yeah, we are able to hear.
Okay, so this session is going to be a little bit interactive. At least someone from your group who can talk on behalf of others, or if someone can also speak up, that's good actually. There's not a theory class, so we're going to be talking of more of a practical issues that we face every day. So, so I'm starting ahead with the session. So, why we are talking about ergonomics, why we are so concerned about the sitting postures that we do every day. Okay, because the statistics show huge things, like we call this a work related musculoskeletal disorders or injuries. In hospitals we just don't see people coming with diseases of the biochemistry of their body. We see patients coming with diseases or injuries or disorders of musculoskeletal issues, things that can happen with biomechanical problems, like how we use our muscles, how we use our joints, how much stress we are putting on will result in a musculoskeletal injuries or a repetitive strain injury, or we summarize this as a MSD, musculoskeletal disorders. So uh, in US and in many other countries, there are millions of dollars, millions of rupees are going just to address these issues. So, and we have seen many people dropping off from their jobs just because of the musculoskeletal disorders, because of their overstress, or because they had some musculoskeletal issue, biomechanical issue, they couldn't continue their job, they had to drop off. And we also see people who are being admitted into our emergency time and time, at least weekly, one patient we see coming to the emergency with a back pain, severe back pain, or a neck stuck in a particular angle. They couldn't move their neck, they couldn't move their shoulder. So they would be asking why these things are happening, how did it happen, I didn't do anything, I didn't play, or I didn't do anything intense that can cause such an injury, but it's the work related thing that has caused these kind of issues. So though the pains initially may seem very small, but it takes a huge toll on the person's profession, person's personal life as well. Okay, so these are the few of the musculoskeletal disorders that we usually see at our department, at our OP. So there's neck pain, back pain, shoulder pain, interscapular pain, trapezitis, so carpal tunnel, tennis, and golfers finger. So all these things listed, these are only just a few of the disorders that can happen, but there are many more actually. So who are developing these musculoskeletal disorders are people who are continuously doing one kind of job. Like it could be even just be standing job, it could even be sitting job. So whatever work we do over a period of time repeatedly for many hours without giving proper rest, without following proper ergonomic postures, then we end up having these musculoskeletal issues. So our goal here is to today to find the uh, these musculoskeletal stressors, we call it ergonomic stressors. We try to find those stressors and try to eliminate the injuries and disorders that come with the overuse, right? So here's one question I wanted you to ask. So humans have brain, and many other animals, primates, all the primates have a brain, but there's still some animals or organisms which don't have a brain. So what is the difference? Like, why do we have the brain actually? Did anyone ever think of that question?
To control movements and make decisions and thinking power.
Wow, that's good. Yeah. So if you see the animal kingdom, we humans seem to have a little bit larger brain compared to chimpanzees or baboon. Or these are the nearest to us actually, uh, but we are not the largest. We are not the ones who have the largest brain. There's a blue whale, dolphins. Ka brain is larger than us. They're animals which are having higher IQ than us, higher IQ than humans. So what separates us from other animal brain or the largest brain in the animal kingdom is the complexity of the nervous system and the number of neurons that are there within the uh, brain cortex. So our brain is so well developed so as to it can do very complex and delicate movements that none of the other animals can do actually. Okay, so our main purpose is to move very precisely, dexterously. Okay, so there's something we need to learn from the animal kingdom. This animal called a sea squirt. So it starts off as an egg. It quickly develops like a tadpole creature. So it has a complete spinal cord with a simple eye and a tail for swimming. So it can move within the water in search of the food. So, but unlike humans or unlike other animals, the sea squirts don't keep their brains and spinal cord forever. So once they find a rock, and once they're settled there, the first thing the sea squirt does is to eat off the brain. So there are a few other animals also which does the same thing. Um, so the thing why the question came up for the scientists is why did the sea squirt eat off its brain first, eat off its nervous system first? Because the sea squirt doesn't have to do hunting. Okay, it doesn't have any threat from other animals, so it can, as long as it's just staying in the, it gets stuck to a rock or somewhere in the seabed, it doesn't have to move anywhere in search of the food because the food comes to it. Actually, it can filter through the water the food that is required for it, and no other animal harms it because of its cellulose like body structure. So that amazed all the scientists. Okay, so then they started questioning, okay, why we have the brain and why the sea squirt doesn't need a brain to survive. Okay, because sea squirt doesn't have to move anymore. First thing it does is it eats off its brain. So we have brain for one reason and one reason only, that is to produce adaptable and complex moments. Okay, so we are designed to walk on two legs. We're not designed to stand still. We're not designed to sit for long duration. So that is the major point I wanted to make here today. Okay, so we are not designed, we didn't evolve to be a software engineer. We didn't evolve to sit and work all day. Okay, so when you ask a question, okay, what is the right way to sit, is okay, before that I want to say sitting itself is the wrong thing. Okay, so now one major question I wanted to ask is, how many of you are sitting right now on a bed or sofa or somewhere not in a proper desk? Try to find a chair and try to sit in a proper posture. Okay, so even for this 1 hour session, still if you're sitting in a wrong position, it's not a good thing. So is there anything as an ideal posture? That's always the question that we get from many people. Okay, and we find a lot of references in internet suggesting that this is the right posture, these are the particular angles to be maintained. Of course, most of it is right, but is this a wrong posture? So it definitely
Yeah,
looks like a wrong posture. Yeah. So, and is this a right posture or a wrong posture?
that's a lot of load.
This one? Yes, so you've read the line. Okay. So the bearskin hats, they weigh around 9 pounds. So they're very tall and they're very heavy. Not just that, even if you see a queen's guard, so you just had to stand there for 4 hours continuously. And if you find in YouTube the video references showing them, they don't change their position, they don't get disturbed by people that walk around or tease them or they make jokes on them. They still try to maintain that position no matter what. So I want to make a point here that, so if you're sitting in this position for 15-20 minutes or an hour straight, and then you kept moving, you're not staying in one position, then even this position is not a problem for you. Okay, even if you're sitting vertically straight like this position, but you're not moving at all, then that's the problem for you. That causes the musculoskeletal problems. Hope you get the point I'm making here. So what I'm meant to say is, you cannot hold a particular posture for long duration of time. Our muscles get fatigued. Our muscles can only do so much. So if we push them beyond their capacity, then they fail up. Then they start giving up the pain. So even those mild pain we might neglect, and we keep pushing further, and we end up in having a musculoskeletal disorder or an injury, repetitive strain injury. Or simply said, you may have end up in a back pain or a neck pain, right? So being stationary for long periods with a good posture can be worse than regular movement with a bad posture. So that's the major point I wanted to tell you today. Okay, so there is no particular thing as a good posture. Posture is um, individualized for everyone. So one person may say this is the right posture. Maybe it's the right posture and comfortable for him. That same posture cannot be comfortable and good for the other person. So we cannot generalize the good posture. We cannot give a specifics or dimensions for the right posture. So posture is never a static. So as I said, we are meant to move. We are designed to walk. We are not designed to hold a static position. So posture is always a dynamic. So should our work style be. Your work style should be dynamic. You shouldn't be stuck on one position all through the day. That's the most dangerous thing you can do. Okay, so these are called the stressors or the traumatogens, ergonomic traumatogens associated with computer use. So the physical stress risk factors that can lead to musculoskeletal issues are your awkward posture, your static muscle loading, that is, you're loading a muscle for a longer duration of time. The repetition, one particular repetitive movements can also cause a repetitive stress injuries like the carpal tunnel syndrome. The contact stress also leads to decurve veins or carpal tunnel kind of syndromes. So the other risk factor that can contribute to this is a inadequate recovery, inadequate rest time. So environmental factors, now that most of you might be working from home, you may not have a proper environmental things, like the facilities that you have in the office may not be there at your home. You may not have the right table, right chair, or the right lighting, right desk, so right computer. So even these factors can also lead to the ergonomic stresses, and of course the stress of the job and fatigue. So we're going to discuss about pain. Why I want to tell about the pain is, we see many people coming to us for some issue, but when we examine them, they have pains in other areas as well, but they never acknowledge their pain. So it seems weird. They have the pain, but they don't feel it. So why? Okay, so pain always indicates that there's some damage going on in our body, some actual or potential damage that can happen within our body, right? But when pain becomes so huge, we all think, okay, pain is very bad. I wish there's no pain for me. The patients who tell me like, I wish I don't have the sensation of pain. But when we ask the question, what if we really don't have a sensation of pain? So that's a real dangerous thing. We step onto things, we still may not feel the pain. That ends up damaging our body, right? So having a pain as a God's gift. So we should respect that. So I see many people abusing the pain, not responding to the pain. So when they have a slightest pain, you don't try to seek out for the sources of the pain or try to fix the source of your pain, then you end up in having issues. So if you respect your pain, deal with it, then you won't end up in damaging yourself. So maybe you never heard of this. So there's this disease where the small kid doesn't have any sensation of pain since her birth. So this taught the scientists many lessons, that how important the pain is. So since the childhood, she kept damaging herself. She kept doing dangerous things. So her parents literally have to put on a boxer's glove always on her hand so that she doesn't touch harmful things or damage to her. So the thing is here, we should respect our pain. We should always be mindful. why I want to tell the smallest pains also matter is because the pain that you have may be only the tip of the iceberg. Sometimes when we see patient walking in with the minor issues, but when we investigate further, there's bigger, deeper things. So which when not treated in time may end up to be a big trouble. They may end up in having surgeries, or it can be irreversible damage by the time we know that there's a big issue. So respect your smaller pains. That's what I want to tell here. So even if you have a small pain, that tells you that, okay, there's something wrong, you need to fix it. Either look out for your posture, there's maybe some adjustment that you need during your work, or sometimes maybe you need to even see a doctor or a physio to help you out with ruling out the other red flags or the major causes for your pain. So today our main topic is going to be sitting. So how we sit at our desk. So this is the line I came across, like sitting is the smoking of the current generation. Yes, it truly is actually. So we see many people affected by sitting postures just as equally affected by smoking. So how bad the smoking is, the sitting can also be so bad. So when we sit with a curved back, like a slumped posture, that puts our spine in a wrong position. So when you're used to this wrong position, that causes a wear and tear in your spinal disc, because we are loading our spine in a wrong way. That causes a overstretched on the spinal ligaments. That also overloads your spinal joints. That can cause a abnormal load on your spinal muscles. So sitting in slumped posture affects your spine a lot. That's the first thing I want to tell. The second thing that can affect is your chest cavity, because when you sit with a slumped posture in a wrong posture, that can also alter your chest cavity, the amount of volume that you have in your chest. So when the volume of your chest decreases, your lungs cannot expand. So when your lungs cannot expand, the amount of oxygen that you can breathe in also gets limited. So when the bloodstream oxygen is less, that also tells us the amount of oxygen that goes to the brain is also less. Brain is like it eats off oxygen like crazy. So it requires a lot of oxygen to function properly. So when the amount of oxygen reduces, we develop like a dullness. We are not very attentive. Our memory get disturbed. Okay, so it can temporarily cloud our thinking and attention, right? So these are all the bad things that can happen with a sitting posture, sitting in a wrong posture. And the major thing is there's also long-term effects like dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. If people someone among you have come up across these kind of patients, then you would know how bad it is to be having a Parkinson's. So these are all the effects that can happen with sitting in a wrong. So sitting in continuous duration for a long period of time can also put undue pressure on your arteries and nerves. So so this also sitting also can deactivate your lipoprotein lipase enzyme, which breaks down your fat in your bloodstream. So when this breaking down is not happening, the lipoprotein lipase is deactivated and it's not working properly, then you start to build up more fat. You tend to gain more weight. So when you start to get more weight, when you're sitting for prolonged periods, this can lead to other heart disease, and it can also lead to diabetes, kidney and liver problems as well. So sitting itself is a dangerous thing. So this line makes sense actually. So sitting is the smoking of the current generation. It looks very harmless initially. Sitting feels very relaxed, sitting feels very good, but it's harmful for you. Just remember that point. So before we go to the spinal curvature, so I wanted you to make a point here, how simple movements, simple changes in posture can affect the load on your muscles, on your soft tissue structures. So here we are talking about a neck. We call this the text neck. Text neck matlab it's the happens with people who use their phones or use their laptops on their thighs, and for prolonged duration of time they end up having the neck pain. So they end up having a trapezitis and cervical paraspinal spasms. So if you see the first image here, if the neck is at 0 degree, if the head is vertically up, the amount of weight of your head is around 5 to 6 kg. So it's around 10 to 12 lbs. So when your neck bends a little, you're looking down a little, like 15 degree, the load changes to 27 pounds. So when you go further down, it increases to 40. When you go to 60 degrees, it's like worse, like it's 60 lb of pressure. It's not that the weight of the head is changing, it's the amount of work your muscles have to do to hold the head in position. So when your muscles have to take up so huge loads, they give up very easily. They may not have the same strength to maintain it for longer duration of time. So they tend to fail and they tend to become fatigued and they tend to give the pain, right? So many of them say, okay, I sit for continuous 8 hours of work, but I go to gym, I do some physical activity, I go for walking, running, jogging, any kind of activity. But I want to tell here, make a point here is that's a good thing. If you're working out, if you're doing some kind of exercise or you're physically active uh, before or after your work, that's good, but it still cannot reverse the effects of the bad things that are happening during your work time. It cannot reverse the ill effects of prolonged sitting that you've already been doing. Okay, so 1 hour of physical activity or 1 hour of exercise cannot reverse the damage that you're doing for the 8 to 9 hours continuously. So what we can do about this, okay? So what is the right way to sit? So before we go to the right way to sit, so this is how it may look like during the pandemic. So many of you are working at home, so you might be comfortable sitting in a sofa or sitting down or maybe sitting in a bed. So all these are the bad examples of sitting. Okay, so if you're still on a sofa or on the bed or on some surface which tends to put you in an awkward posture, you should consider getting out of it. Okay, and consider getting a chair and try to find a proper table and a chair. That's the best thing that you can do for people who are working continuously. Okay, so here we have two examples who have a proper ergonomic chair, who have a proper table, but they're still in a wrong posture. Okay, so if you see the first image here, he has to tilt a lot to the front. Okay, he's not vertical, and he has to poke out his chin to look into the screen. His screen is lower than his eye level. If you see, his forearms are not rested, so this is not good. If you see the second image here, he kept his laptop in the thigh. Please never use laptop on your thigh. If it's only for some time, that's okay actually. But if you're working during your work and you're sitting there for a long duration of time, never considered working in this position. Okay, here seems okay, probably almost near to the good posture, but still, if you see the back of the spine, if you see the spine structure here, see the right side image, the standing image. Our spine is not vertical straight. It's not like in a straight line. Like there's curves, right? If you see at the bottom, there's a concave curve, and again there's a convex curve, and again it's going up straight. It's more like a concave curve again at the top. So that is how a normal spine will be. Okay, even in sitting posture, you should be able to maintain that curve. So that is the goal of the proper sitting. Okay, so if you see this here, the left side image, you can see how the spine has lost its natural curve. The lower side, if you see, it's all convex now. It's all convex from the bottom to the midway. So we call it a slouch posture. So that's not good position. So if you see it here, the way she is sitting, she's almost sitting in this position now. It may be comfortable for a while, but it causes an undue stress on the back, which can lead to back pains. So you should consider, this is a very important thing here. Okay, so try to make your spine a bit more concave at the lower lumbar region. Okay. You may be hearing people saying, okay, sit straight. Okay, but you don't tend to you shouldn't be like too exerting over yourself, like trying to sit too erect. Okay, that can also cause problems. Even if you're sitting erect, it should be a relaxed sitting, like in the second image here. And the last one here, the slump sitting, is definitely not indicated. It's a very bad posture. Okay, so few things that you may be doing wrong at your desk. Okay, so first thing, don't sit up straight. Okay, people say sitting up straight is good, but here I'm telling you don't have to sit up straight. A slight inclination to the back is always a little better, but make sure you have some kind of lumbar support pillow at the back, like the one we have here. Okay, she's not tilted to the front, she's not completely vertical. She was reclined a little bit, like 10-15 degree back, and she's having a lumbar support pillow. The pillow in the concave area of the spine. So that helps her to keep the spine in a neutral position. That helps her to avoid wrong abnormal stresses on the lower back, right? So the next point I wanted to make is, many of them say, okay, they adjust this chair height. As soon as they sit in the chair, they adjust the chair height so that their feet are properly touching the floor. Their feet are planted on the floor. Okay, so never adjust the height of the chair based on your legs. So you should adjust the height of the chair based on your keyboard position. So make sure your elbows and your forearms are in one particular line when you adjust the height of the chair. So if you see here, this is the best position. If you see, our elbow is at 90 degree, and so she doesn't have to raise the shoulder to maintain this position. And we see many people having a very good table with a built-in drawers. So when you have a built-in drawer, the major problem will be, so if you see here, when we sit with a elbows at 90, our legs go underneath the table. If you're placing the keyboard on the table and trying to adjust your chair height as per the keyboard height, then you see there's not much space between the leg and the table, right? So there's not your elbow and your hips are very close to each other. There's only small space and the table fits in there. If you have a table with a drawers or a cupboards, small drawers, so even those can cause you to sit in a wrong way. So try to choose a table which doesn't have a drawer. And I see people using a wrist rest. There are very many fancy spongy silicone wrist rests out there. And we end up seeing them, they end up in having carpal tunnel syndrome, or they end up having any nerve or artery block actually when you use the wrist rest for a long time. So rather than resting your wrist on a surface, try to rest your palms on the surface. Never let your wrist rest on a sharp object or any bumpy object, or even a silicone rest is also not good. Okay, so don't use those rest. And many people, we've seen this trend recently, like since last few years, we're seeing this trend like, okay, standing desks are better than sitting desks. So we've seen many organization adopting the standing desk, but the statistics say standing avoids the problems of the sitting things, but it's no better than the sitting because it causes other problems than the sitting. And the one research tells us that standing increases the heart CAD risk, matlab coronary artery disease risk, 2 times more than the person who is doing a sitting job. A person who's doing a standing job has 2 times more chances of getting a heart disease than a person who is doing a sitting job all day. So even standing is no better actually in terms of the statistics. But what I wanted to say is, if you're sitting, don't sit for a long time. And it's better to change your standing to sitting, like you sit continuously for 2 hours, try to go to a standing posture for half an hour or 1 hour and come back to sitting posture. That's the best thing that you can do. And if you take frequent breaks, like every 1 hour break is recommended for normal people. But people who are already having some issues, some pains, it's indicated that they take breaks every 30 minutes or 40 minutes. Okay. So here are the one more thing I wanted to note you to take a look at is, if you see the under her thigh support, the under the buttock support, so it's more like a wedge, not a flat cushion. So the wedge helps her to sit erect actually. So you should try this actually. If you have a wedge, you're more pushed towards sitting erect than leaning back, going into a slump posture. So these are the small adjustments that you can do to your chair to help you sit better. You can use these supports even in a normal chair. Even if you don't have an ergonomic chair, You can still use a normal chair and make this small minor adjustment to adjust your seat height and your keyboard height, and have a proper lumbar support pillow and under the thigh wedge. That changes a lot actually. Okay, so here we see one weird thing happening. So his laptop is placed very high. It looks very unpractical, or it doesn't look good actually. But in reality, in practically, that's the very good thing that he has done there. So his keyboard and mouse are perfectly in line with the forearms, his elbow. And if you see the eye line, the top of the laptop is in line with his eye. So that's the best posture actually. So if the laptop is still at the keyboard height or it's very close to his body, he would still have to bend the neck. So when he bends the neck, what happens? So as the bending angle increases, the amount of pressure that goes through your muscles increases. So the people who makes the smaller mistakes, we see people having a very good ergonomic chair. They have their keyboard and mouse at a perfect height. Their foots are rest properly. They have a proper back support. Yet their screen height is wrong. So you should consider your screen height as well, because most of them might be using laptops now, because the laptop doesn't detach from its keyboard and the mouse. So you need to have a external keyboard and a mouse. Okay, so you can also get these kind of stands actually. This is called a laptop kickstand or laptop stand. You can find them online or you can find them in stores, and having a detachable keyboard and mouse. So this is like a perfect from the work posture. So it's a very good desk actually. So okay, if there's any questions that you want to ask regarding this sitting posture, you can ask now. Hello. Yes.
Yeah, so I have a forearm pain in my muscle. So I always make sure that my hands resting on the table completely and my laptop is moved behind. So do you suggest that is right? I mean, for that I have to incline a little bit, but I keep my arms rested on the table completely. I have a forearm pain. That's why I do that. So do you recommend that?
Okay. So the thing is that you may think that your forearms are rested properly, but if you see here in this image, if you see the table height is more of the keyboard is higher than his elbow height, then he has to raise his shoulder, and it also causes. If you see the left image here, the top image, how he's placed the arm, his forearm and elbow looks like parallel to the keyboard, but it still is spine position is not right, his shoulder position is not right. So you should consider your sitting posture first. Once you adjusted your seat height according to your keyboard height, that itself will solve your problem actually.
So how do you recommend keeping your forearms? Like, because we use
Forearm
laptops
should,
mostly, we
yeah,
we tend to put our arms in a very different position. It keeps hurting. So
yes,
what do you suggest
yes.
to keep? Yeah.
So if your whole of your forearm is resting on the uh, table, if you see in this image, he is resting his forearm on the table. This is fine. Okay, so if you're able to rest your forearms, your palm on the table also is fine. Preferably, we wanted you to have the arms in the air, like this. So if you see, this is the preferable position actually. This has zero contact of the forearm to the table. This this will reduce the contact stress that can happen. But thing is that with this kind of posture, you cannot maintain this position for a longer time. Your forearms will get tired and you wanted to keep it down again, right, after working for a while.
Yeah.
So it's better to have a your laptop should be pushed back, or your keyboard should be pushed further forward, and rest whole of your forearm or your elbow, even rest your elbow on the table, and then you can do the work.
Yeah. With the back behind, right?
Yes, you should pull the chair also to the front actually. You should move further into the table.
Oh,
That's the only way actually.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
Uh,
many of you, Yeah, yes, tell me.
What was the issue with the sitting which you are showing right now? The man with the laptop height, like books were there. Yeah,
Yes, yes, yeah. This is perfect actually. That's what I want to tell here. He's in a
okay.
perfect position. His thighs are perfectly in line, in parallel. He has a proper backrest.
But one
His
thing here,
spine is in neutral position. Yeah.
one thing. What if like he's seeing on the keyboard, like he's again and again checking his keyboard, like looking into the keyboard, then the neck will be tilted, right? The face will be tilted.
Yes, but thing is that we don't usually look into the keyboard.
Yeah,
We
sometimes.
type without. Yeah.
If in that case, if we are looking,
Hmm.
then it is an issue, right? Yeah.
Yes,
Otherwise, it is.
yes.
Otherwise, it is.
Otherwise, it's fine actually. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So we usually find people who come to our department, our OP, physiotherapy OP, and we see this they having them pain or some issue. So we usually ask them to show us your workstation, so that we can see if there's any ergonomic stresses or traumatogens that are leading to this kind of pain. So we usually ask them, or we usually ask them to sit before us and show how they are sitting, how they place their keyboard and mouse. Most of the time it's the smaller corrections that we do that brings a huge change in them actually. They can, most of the time, work you take, once you take off the actual thing that's causing you the pain, you are avoiding the pain actually in total. You don't have to end up going taking drugs. You don't have to end up taking regular physio sessions just to treat your pain. So first thing I want to tell, before you treat an injury, if there's a cut with the knife, you stop cutting your hand first. You take the knife off away, rather than the people who don't want to change their workstation. They keep injuring themselves, but they still wanted to get treated for the pain. So that's a very bad thing. So these are very small things that I'm pointing out, but they make huge changes in the way you work. Okay, and it also helps you to avoid all the injuries or the pain that happens. If
Uh,
anyone,
so there is a question in the chat.
okay, let me check the chat. So what would be the impact bending our neck in reverse direction? That helps you to unload your neck actually. So if you're doing a frequent neck extension, bending your neck back, that helps you to avoid the pain actually. So is it good to keep legs crossed while sitting or no? Not for a long time, but for, yeah, that it's okay to keep your legs crossed for some time, but crossing the legs for a longer duration of time can lead to a nerve pulses, or a, it can also obstruct the arteries. So you might feel a kind of numbing kind of sensation, but it's not going to harm for everyone. But there's few people who get harmed by sitting cross-legged. So sitting cross-legged for some duration is fine, but not for a long time. If we sit cross-legged according to the posture, yeah. Sitting for cross-legged for some duration is fine. Yeah. So, as most of you are working from home and seeing the pandemic, we're not going to expect the things going to change very early. So, I would rather suggest to set up proper ergonomic workstations at your home. Okay, so if you deal with working for longer durations before your computer, I would rather ask you to invest in invest some amount in your chair or a proper table, and like wireless mouse or a keyboard or a wired mouse also is fine. Invest in these things that helps you to prevent all the medical expenses that can happen if you end up doing the wrong things. So small things that you can do to set up your workstation properly. The when you're if you're looking to purchase a proper ergonomic chair, look for something that has an adjustable recliner and adjustable height. Overall seat height should be adjustable. The recliner should be adjustable. Okay, so these are the major things that going to help actually. So if you see, as I suggested, sitting rather than sitting straight, sitting a little bit behind inclined is a better thing, right? So if you can maintain that, maintain a little reclination like 10 to 15 degree back, that's always a better thing. And have an adjustable backrest. So, and having an extra backrest like a lumbar support pillow is the best thing. You can get these lumbar support pillows like the one we see here, like the blue pillow behind our back. So that's called a lumbar support pillow. You can find them in stores, online. So this helps you to maintain your spine erect actually. So having an adjustable armrest is also good, but in situations like this, like your chair is very much inside the, you have to go further into the table, then armrest might be limiting the movement. So have a chair something where your armrests are adjustable and your armrest can be removed from the chair. Okay, so that these are the few things that you need to look out if you're planning to buy an ergonomic chair. Okay, there's seat materials, there's many different kind of materials, different brands happen. So look out for something that gives you the most comfort. So, and another major thing is the seat depth. So without trying it out, don't buy the chair directly. Okay, so you should be very mindful of the seat depth. Seat depth is the, you should be able to maintain the whole of the thigh length in the seat. So if your thigh is not supported properly in the seat, it can cause a lot of discomfort. You may not be able to sit properly to the back, or you may not be, your proper under thigh support is not there. So these problems can happen if you choose a chair with a improper seat depth. So these are things you need to look out if you're planning to purchase a seat, a chair, ergonomic chair. So few things I wanted to point out: set up your workstation properly, as we mentioned before, and be mindful of your posture. So our recommendation is try to get up every 1 hour for people who don't have any issues. For people who are already having some neck pain, back pain, it's preferable to get out of the chair every 40 minutes. Okay, so that's the biggest thing that you can do. So if you're drinking water frequently, you need to get out of the chair, move and take a small walk and come back and sit. Even if the break is like 1 to 2 minutes, that's sufficient enough to break the stress, actually break the physical stress. Okay, so the last point I wanted to make is do regular exercise. So there's people who do exercise, but they always try to choose one kind of exercise. Like there are people who do only yoga and they do nothing else. They don't do other kind of, they don't go to gym, or they don't do any resistance training or aerobic training. They only do yoga. There are people who just go to the gym. They lack the aerobic training. They lack the flexibility. So always choose a type of exercise and always have variations in the exercise to introduce some amount of stretches, some amount of resistance training with the weights or body weights, and try to have an aerobic training as well, like running, jogging, cycling. Okay, so these are the things you need to do. And one small point I want to make here is that many complaints with the eye strain. They say, okay, my eyes are strained so much when we are sitting before the computer. So do we get some glasses for it? There's some blue light blocking glasses out there, but there's no evidence to support the blue light blocking glasses actually. Okay, so it looks like a marketing thing. So it doesn't seem to work for many people. At least theoretically also it doesn't actually make sense. So what's the best thing that you can do to avoid eye strain is to, if the laptop or your computer is further away, computer screen is further away, it's better to increase the font size. If you don't increase the font size, then you tend to lean forward again, or you tend to have strain your eyes so much. Okay, so positioning your monitor also makes a huge impact. And most of the screens are glossy. So when you have a glossy screen, you tend to have a lot of reflections. So try to position your screen so that you can avoid reflections, or try to position your lights or your window according to the screen glare. There's something that you can do, matte kind of a glass that you can put on the screens. So that will also help you to minimize the screen glare. And frequent breaks. So for every hour spent on a computer, the OSHA recommends around 10 minutes of break. So 10 minutes of break here, matlab, when you're already having an eye strain, I would rather prefer close your eyes. You can like a small power nap that usually helps you to reset your eye strain. Okay, so if your eyes are continuously looking, that's not really good. And during the break time, you can do other things, like you can take a walk outside and look into the nature, look for further objects, look for, if you see distant objects, your eyes will dilate. So like the camera lens, eyes can dilate and constrict. when you have to look to the nearer objects, the eyes have to strain a little differently. When you look further away, the eyes have to work differently. So if you're take time off from your screen, go out, look at the distant objects. Okay. And for people who are already having eye strain, better to have a lubrication like an eye drops. So there are many lubricants that you can purchase off the counter. Okay, so that can also help. So we're going to go through a few exercises. So before we go through this, anyone wants to ask anything regarding the posture, the ergonomic chairs, or anything else? Okay, if there's no questions, we'll go further ahead. Okay, so if everyone is here, I want you to try this exercise right away. So just a couple of repetitions of each exercise so that you'll understand what to do. You can maybe take a screenshot of this so that you can make it a routine to do this. And the exercise that I'm suggesting here, it's not a fix for the pain that you already have. If you're already suffering with something, I would rather ask you to go see a doctor, see a physiotherapist nearby. If you're nearby our hospital, you can come to Continental. Okay, so these are the stretches that you can do to avoid injuries, to avoid pains. Okay, so the first one here is a simple neck stretch. You just have to keep your hand behind your head, bend onto one side, hold the stretch for 5 to 10 seconds. Repeat this for 5 to 10 repetitions. So the second one is a cross arm stretch. You just have to cross your arm, push with your hand. You can either use the hand this way or this way and push it. The third one is a wrist stretch. For people who are having the forearm pain, this can help actually. So you just have to stretch out your arm and push your wrist further. And this is for your spine. So you just have to stand up and bend onto one side. And this one, I wanted you to try the right one here. So everyone try to interlock your fingers like this and keep your arms up. Okay, so hold that for 5 seconds and take deep breaths. So when you're holding that position, take deep breaths. Inspire properly and breathe out. Breathe in with your nose and breathe out with your mouth. So after you do that for 5 seconds, just get your arms down, but watch how your spine position has changed after you've done that exercise. So if you just observe, once you going to the position is tough for you, then okay, you can say that there's some stiffness in your spine. If you're able to do this very easily, then okay, you're on the normal side. You don't have any issues. But people who are feeling some kind of stiffness in the back or some kind of pain, you can find out in this movement, actually, in this exercise. And the other thing I wanted you to notice is, so after you do this exercise, see how you're sitting now. Even after you stop doing the exercise, you'll be sitting more erect than before what you did, before how you're sitting, before you did this exercise. So did anyone had any issues while doing this stretch?
Yeah, I felt stiffness.
You felt stiffness, okay. In the spine, mid back or
Mid-back.
lower back?
Mid-back.
Mid back. Okay, fine. You can either keep repeating these stretches that will help you to overcome the stiffness actually over a period of time. But if it's not coming down, better to see a physiotherapist nearby. Yeah. So the next one here, these are the few things for the legs. So you just have to cross your leg and bend forward. So your chest is coming to your thighs. So you're going to bend completely down, like literally trying to touch your hands down onto the floor in the first image, sitting with a cross leg. The second image, you need to do it on the floor. So this is called a lion's pose. You just have to go to the kneeling position and stretch out your arms to the front. This will give a complete exhale stretch for your spine. So that's a very good stretch for your spine actually. The right top one. The right bottom one is a stretch for your hamstrings. You can do this in sitting also. Just straighten out your leg, bend down and reach out for your toes. So it's a simple hamstring stretch. The same hamstring stretch can be done in different ways. This also stretches your whole of your spine. So there are many people who cannot bend down like the image in the left. They may have a lot of stiffness in their hamstrings. That is okay actually. It's not an abnormal thing. People are People can be hypermobile, normal mobility, and hypomobility. For people who are having a less flexibility, maybe they can try this version of the hamstring stretch. They can bend a little at the knee and try to reach out for the toes. So there's a stretch. There's a stretch for your anterior part of your thigh, the front part of your thigh. We call it a quadriceps stretch. So you can just stand up and bend your knee and try to touch your heel to the buttock. So that stretches your front of your thigh. There's a simple lunge that you can do that stretches your calf of the back leg actually. If you place your feet properly, that will cause a stretch in your calf. So we hear this a lot, okay? So many of them may be having a little bit more active work style. They may not be sitting all the time. So they say, okay, I'm very active throughout the day. I'm walking around the office. I'm doing a lot of things. So I don't need to do a workout. But the thing is that work is not a workout. Okay, so even though you're tired, even though you feel that you did a lot physically, you still need to cater some amount of time, an hour or so of your day, to do a workout, to do any kind of exercise on an active thing. Okay, it can be a yoga, it can be a stretches, it can be a gym kind of thing, resistance training. Okay, because you don't get the same physical and psychological benefits from non-intentional activity as you do from intentional recreational activity, right? So you need to consider exercise. Always requires some motivation to do exercise. Hope at least some of you can start off some exercise schedule, and hope you understood the changes that we need to make in your workstation so that you can avoid the musculoskeletal problems. So any questions you want to ask?
If you have any questions, please unmute yourself and ask the questions.
I have a question. We usually have these desks available, where you can sit on your bed and keep the laptop on the desk. It's portable. If we are still, leaning towards the wall, having the proper support and working on those tables, do you think it is fine for some time, in the day, like for 2 hours or so, to work on such tables?
Yeah, so 1-2 hours is fine, but thing is that if you find something very comfortable, you tend to stay in that position for all day. So that causes the problem actually. Thing is that if you sit in wrong posture for one whole day also, you may not see any problem actually. But we see people who are having this problem of sitting for days together or months together in the wrong posture. As soon as the lockdown has started, we've seen an increase in patients who are having the severe backache or severe neck pain issues. So because people are trying to avoid coming to the hospital, they are not coming for smaller pains, but when they have a huge pain, they cannot restrain themselves. They had to come to the hospital. So we've seen an increase in this trend as soon as the work from home trend has begun. So once the people have started from working from home, the pains have increased actually. So as I said, proper ergonomic chair, you may not have a proper ergonomic chair, but you can still use a proper wooden chair, something that you have at home, and proper table to set up your workstation properly. You don't need a proper ergonomic chair, but sitting in the bed is definitely not a good idea because it doesn't, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.